Good afternoon, everybody. This is Debbie Horovitch from Social Sparkle and Shine, and we're back again for Sparkle SOS Book Authors and Publishers, which is our mostly monthly Google Plus Hangout on air for book authors, all the way from aspiring to best-selling. And we are happy to be back the second season. We've been having a string of best-selling book authors booking for the show for the future and even starting the season. And we're continuing today with someone who I've been very aware of, Gina, and her work over the last couple of years. And I'm really excited to have the opportunity to have Gina here today with us. She's the author of the book Klout Matters. And the reason why I'm so excited to talk to Gina, of course, not only is Klout an online platform, a social media platform that judges influence, and it's something that is important to me, but I know that for book authors especially, like a lot of people in social media know about Klout, but not always book authors. And so I thought it would be really, it would make a lot of sense, and I was really happy that Gina was able to come in and to talk to us about not only her experiences with publishing her book, Klout Matters, as a co-author, and but also about how Klout specifically can help book authors. And I wonder if maybe after today we can get a whole bunch of book authors that have their Klout score jumping. And I think it's something that could be really powerful. So that's what we'll get into today. We're going to talk to Gina, and we've got Michael Procopio, who's normally with us, might be coming back in a little bit. And then we've got a couple of ladies that are quite well known to Gina, and they'll be introducing themselves to you in a moment, Jane and Sandy. So we'll get right into the conversation. Welcome, ladies. Welcome, viewers. How about, I think I'd like to have our guests introduce themselves. And if you could, ladies, just, I'm going to start with Sandy. And if you could, tell us about who you are, where you're from, and where you are in your experience as a book author. You could be aspiring, you could be best-selling. Where are you today?
Well, hi, I'm Sandy Coryell. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk with you. I am a business and leadership consultant focusing on culture and leadership that is very geared towards the creative industries. And I would put myself firmly in the aspiring author category. I have started, like so many of us, I've started, haven't gotten there yet, and I'm so happy to be here with Gina because she's really been a great model of how to be an author in the 21st century and really create a community around authorship. So if I can only do a small part of that as I become a published author, I will be very happy.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad that you're here today, and hopefully not only will you be able to share some of your thoughts and insights for book authors, but you'll be able to walk away with some real motivation and maybe some new insights as well.
Great.
Hi, Jane.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing great. I have a little bit of a hoarse voice, though, so this is not how I normally sound.
Or how you normally look.
Or how I normally look, right. Like, pay no attention to that woman behind the curtain. So I am Jane Gary. I am the sales strategist for the non-salesperson. And I work with courageous and committed business owners and entrepreneurs and help them discover, unleash, and embrace their inner sales rock star. And that's so they can earn the kind of money they want and deserve, and that's so they can live the life they always thought they were going to have when they decided to own a business. So nobody goes into business to work 24/7 and be broke, but most people also don't go into business to be a full-time salesperson. They just want to write the book or bake the cupcakes or fix the computer or whatever it is that they want to do. So that is my gig. I am in sunny South Florida, although it's raining right now. And I am, I would say, aspiring book author. I've got one that's finished. My book coach tore through it, and now I've got to redo. So I'm trying to squeak that one over the finish line here. And And then I'm a content writer by nature, so I'm never short on content. So I'm one of those that's got 40 million books up in my head at any given moment.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm so glad that you're here as well. Even though you're not on camera, that's okay. It happens sometimes. There have been a few Hangouts that I've joined in the exact same way. And welcome, Gina. As I said, I'm so glad to have the opportunity to speak to you and really to pick your brain specifically for book authors. I know you've been doing a lot of touring and talking about the book Klout Matters, but I don't know how much you've talked about the book Klout Matters. So that's hopefully what we'll be able to get into today. So why don't you tell us about yourself, about where you are as a book author, and give us an introduction to Klout.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Happy to be here. And let's see, I just want to make sure that I'm coming through okay. I'm not seeing this. Okay, it's not changing for me, but. Okay, so Gina Carr, and I call myself the Tribe Builder because I help passionate people build powerful tribes of raving fans, and that's for their business or for their nonprofit. I specifically help a lot of business owners and including a lot of authors and speakers, mainly with their digital footprint, their digital marketing, and their social media. I wrote the book Klout Matters because in the process of helping my authors find people who were influencers that they could reach out to help spread the message about their books, I discovered a little tool called Klout, and I thought, that's very interesting because through just a Google search or other means, you can't necessarily tell how influential someone might be. And nowadays, since you can buy Twitter followers and you can buy Facebook fans, how do you know if someone's actually influential online? And so that's where the book, let's see, I put it up behind me there. I guess you can see it. Yes, right back there. Here we go. Klout Matters. That's the book that I wrote with my co-author, Terry Brock, last year. McGraw-Hill published it. It was a great experience. And I actually have been speaking about the book marketing and publishing process a good bit lately. I spoke at the New York National Speakers Association Mega Millions Publishing Lab last year. Well, not last year, just last month. And it seems like last year. It's been so much has happened in the past few weeks while I was on my European tour. So in any case, I have spoken at that. It was called the Mega Millions Publishing Lab, and so we were talking with people about how to market their books, and so I do speak and consult about that a lot. As far as my journey for book writing, I have several books in my head also, and I actually am excited because I've made significant progress on my next one already, and the next one's going to be a solo book. And I chose to go with a book coach this time and attend a book writing retreat, which I highly encourage people to do. That can be a really great thing to do to get your book moving on. So the coach I'm working with, she has a plan that 90 days and your book is done. So I'd say I'm already a couple weeks into it. I'm excited about that. It's going to be about tribe building.
About tribe building. That's fantastic. So one of the things that I didn't realize ahead of time was that prior to writing the book Klout Matters, you were already focused on working with authors in your business.
Yes, I was already helping them with their social media. One of my main clients is a woman named Diana Boer. She's the author of 46 books published in 26 different countries. So I've known her for several years, and she's been an inspiration to me, and I've just always wanted to do books myself, and so working with her, I've seen the beauty and the power of being able to share your message across the world, literally. My former business was I was a magazine publisher, physical magazines for small geographical areas, and we built strong communities through that. But with that, it tears down trees, it's expensive, and so when I realized the power of social media to broadcast your message and to build your tribe with people around the world for nothing, said, that's exciting, and that's going to change the world. I mean, when people who have I say I help passionate people build powerful tribes. The people I work with, they always have, you know, a business or a mission or a cause, something they're so excited about, and I love helping them share it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You said something that made me pause, that made me almost grimace a little bit, which was that people can build their audience and their tribe and their platform really for nothing, which it for me has been one of the biggest challenges that I faced in the entire time. My background is media, buying and planning. I come from an advertising background, so straight, pure media. And literally before getting onto this Hangout this afternoon, I was on the phone with someone who is, his background is in publishing print magazines, and he is just about to launch a digital magazine and is finding it extremely challenging. And so we were talking about the challenges on both sides of new media publishing and traditional media publishing. And the challenge that I always find is that people undervalue or don't place value on their time and their passion and their energy. And to say that it costs nothing, that it takes nothing to build your tribe on social media is I don't know what the results are, but I just know that it's not true. Because it requires everything of yourself. You have to be as authentic and open and willing to take risks and willing to put stuff out there that doesn't get picked up, and willing to produce and work it for months and months and months and weeks and weeks and weeks and have no sales, even if you maybe do have some friends. So it's interesting. And how do you resolve that, Gina? Because I mean, for me, I'm very conflicted by it. Are you? You're not?
Well, I don't think I said it takes nothing. I said it costs nothing. And the truth is that if you know how to do social media and if you have the time for it, you can get your message out there to the world for free. Now, if people could do all this on their own and had enough time, they wouldn't be hiring me and my team to do a lot of it for them. Still, relative to the cost of traditional media, it's pennies. It's pennies. And your reach is so much greater, your opportunity is so much greater, and your ability to target is so much greater. So yes, you're going to need to spend some money either learning how to do it yourself or hiring someone to help you, or I think the best solution for most people is a mix of both. Yeah. I think that's what makes sense is for people to initially produce the content, so they write the article or they write the book. Then a team like mine comes in and we data mine it. We grab the golden nuggets and we distribute those out on social media, either through a book or a weekly blog post or a daily blog post for that matter. And then the client, the author of the material, the content creator, has to be there to engage. So we've done the heavy lifting part of getting it out there in the networks. But when people respond, when people have questions, the content creator needs to be there in their own authentic voice to respond and to say yes, no, maybe, oh, that's cool, and to be the leader. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, and I think that is also even key. I mean, especially for book authors, more so than other types of brands and other types of businesses that are active in social media. That really, with a book author, they do have to be there to be authentic and to be in their own voice and to be engaged with their audience, because it's so much of a back and forth. Like, authors have nothing without their audience. They don't. Exactly. Most authors don't even have anything to write about without their audience.
Well, that's true, and at the book writing retreat, that was one of the very first exercises we did. you know, why does the world need the book, and who is it for? You've got to have your ideal reader firmly in mind as you're writing your book. Otherwise, you can get really off track. And certainly we found that in writing our book. You know, some of the time we thought we were writing for the Klout book, we were writing for speakers. Sometimes we were writing for authors, marketing professionals, people who are looking for jobs, and we would get a little off track. And you know, the part of a natural position of an author or anybody who's marketing is saying they want to say, oh, well, I want everybody to be able to buy my stuff or to
of course
enjoy my stuff. But the truth is, the more narrow you can focus, the more your audience is willing to say, oh, that's for me. And I realized this myself, when I was, I also owned a real estate business before, and when I would get an email, you know, emails would come through, and you get so many in a day, and one would say, you know, attend this marketing webinar, da-da-da-da-da. Yes, I'm too busy. Attend a marketing webinar to sell more houses. Oh, that has my attention. It's more focused. They're talking to me. Okay, I might sign up for that one.
How I had this conversation just last night and repeated it twice on my webinars. It is the #1 most critical step about planning a Hangout on Air show that will be successful and have sponsors and audience and celebrity guests, and not suck up all of your time and become a big energy waster. Is making a choice. Even though you serve a lot of different types of people and you want to maybe expand, maybe if you do only focus on one niche but you want to expand to more, you still have to make that choice for your content. I find for me, and with planning Hangouts, I have to make the choice that it's going to be book authors and publishers. And if I want to do a show about food, then I'm going to have to launch a whole nother show about food and be specific about that. But I couldn't just launch a social media show because it's way too general and there's way too much. There's so much content out there about social media. But what I knew was that I would need to choose just one group of people, one of the many that I enjoy working with, that I want to do more work with. I had to just pick one, and it doesn't really matter which one you pick. I had to pick one and focus on it and go with it. And that was book authors and publishers. I picked book authors and publishers because I had a client that I wanted to demonstrate Hangouts on Air to him. And I was hoping that he would hire me if I could get him on a Hangout. I knew that at least he would have an idea of what Hangouts was. So I created a whole show specifically for him as a book author. I brought him on the show. Now, he didn't end up hiring me for his second book. He had hired me previously for his first book to work on it. And it launched the Hangouts. But before my agency, Sparkle SOS, I had a few book authors, but it certainly wasn't the focus of my agency. It just was the choice that I made. And is that something like, I find people have a hard time choosing one.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, I struggle with it myself. I just came back to Orlando the other night and riding back and seeing all the businesses. I live right in Restaurant Row in Orlando, if people are familiar with that. It's an area, there's 100 quality restaurants within a single square mile, and you know, I can throw a stone to them. So I'm like, oh gosh, you know, if I worked with restaurants, they're all just right here in my backyard, and that would be just wonderful. And but that's not where my heart is right now. That's not the people that I'd normally interact with. I attend a lot of conventions where there's a lot of speakers and authors. The National Speakers Association's been a tribe of mine for many years. I just spoke in Ireland, Holland, England to speakers, professional speakers and authors, and I really do love helping them share their messages. So I think that's the path I'm going to stick with for now. And as I write about tribe building, now any business owner can build a tribe, and a restaurant wants to build a powerful tribe. So it is there is the opportunity for any business owner or nonprofit to, want to build a tribe and to pick up lessons from this. But as I put in my head, who is my target market? It is authors and speakers and thought leaders.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And Jane and Sandy, you two have been kind of quiet. You can just jump in the conversation.
I'm actually finding the conversation fascinating on a lot of different levels. Debbie, I also came out of media planning.
Fantastic.
I know, amazing. But it's that background has really made me think about everything that Gina is saying from the perspective of, you can have a really broad audience, but unless you have all the money in the world, you have to at some point refine who is going to be that tribe that's going to want to really spend time with you. And, when I look at social media, and Gina has been tremendous in helping me really understand how to use it as a professional, I find that, taking those golden nuggets and seeing people reacting to them, it's amazing that people who I would never have thought of react. So it opens my mind to being able to say, well, maybe my tribe is a little different than I thought it was. So it's been tremendous in helping me refine it. And then when I look at a book, it's taking all of that and then saying, this is the person who's going to really want to spend time with me. The person who wants to deep dive and spend some time going a little bit beyond the nuggets and really digging in with me, that's going to be that pinpoint of the tribe that I've been able to narrow down. And so for me, it's the combination. It's not one or the other. It's being able to have the balance of all of it and using it for different things. And it's all tremendous understanding and connection. It just might be connection in a little bit different ways.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that you have a media background. It really, like the democratization of media in our culture, I think the revolution that we've been through is that we're now in a communication revolution. We're in the communication era where we can all create a media platform, and the message is out there that everyone. There was a movie with Christian Slater, Pump Up the Volume, where he was doing the illegal airtime radio. The idea now that it would be illegal to broadcast your voice to your own audience, like that's what it still blows my mind. Is it still illegal to broadcast a radio show that is not regulated? Mm-hmm. It probably is. It's probably still not a legal thing that you could broadcast over the radio airwaves, but we're all democratized, and people in society, like we're out there, we're going, okay, wait, I could create a magazine. I could create a TV show. I can create a newspaper. I can create an email newsletter. But many people, and even myself coming in with a media buying background, so I have a very unique and very limited niche, like my expertise and my knowledge of media in this one sliver goes so deep, and I have so much knowledge about how media function from a money perspective and from an audience perspective, but I know nothing about creative. I know nothing about copywriting. I know, and it's funny because as much as I understand targeting because of a budget, even when I have $10 million to spend, I still have to be very selective about the media that I choose and them having the right audience for my money, because otherwise I'm putting my effort, my time, my money into speaking to the wrong people who are not likely to respond to my message, who don't want to hear my message. And it's difficult for me to use that, almost like that understanding that I created in my career, that yes, you have to target and you've got to be selective about who hears your message. Because if you're wasting your time, you're wasting your money, you're wasting your voice, whatever, talking to the wrong people doesn't do you any good, and it does harm you. I have a hard time because I'll collect as many people in my audience on social media as I can, and I blast my messages out to my social channel. And I know that it doesn't work well because it's not targeted. Mm-hmm. But because I'm not limited by money, and I am limited by time, I'm kind of going the opposite direction.
Yeah, that's quite funny. You're reminding me of when I used to live in Atlanta, and I went to some networking groups, and one of my friends, she's a very successful chiropractor, and she got quite a giggle when she would stand up and say, you know, my clients are anyone who has a spine. So it would get a giggle, but it wouldn't get leads.
Yeah.
No leads would come when she'd say, if your child has chronic allergies, I might be able to help. You know, if you're having back problems, if you're having a knee problem, I might be able to help. So, you know, that's funny. So, yeah, you know, and what is the saying that if you think your target market is everyone, your target market is no one?
Yeah, you're not targeting anybody if you think you're targeting everybody. Yeah. It's interesting as well, because I've heard business coaches, Mike Michalowicz, who's a book author as well, he's going to be on the show July 1st. With his new book, he one of the things that he says is there's riches in the niches.
Yes.
So, and a lot of the business coaches, a lot of the, you know, website, audience business masterclass, all of the courses that allow us to enable our ability to publish our expertise and our brain, what they describe, they say, okay, so your niche is deciding and defining and being very, very specific about your target audience. And sometimes, if you are very, very specific about what your service is offering, your niche can be about you. Which, to me, that always confuses me, and I don't know, maybe you can offer some insight into that, because, like, I know I can say my niche is celebrity hangouts on air, right? Like, what I do is so specific, it's so niche, it's so, but at the same time, I struggle with, yeah, I really should target, like, chiropractors or real estate agents or whatever with I should become the best at hangouts on air for chiropractors, right? And that way leads would roll in, because right now I'm waiting for people who know that they need hangouts on air.
Yes, well, I think that your target is very smart. People who've written books and people who are writing books, they're going to need their own TV station. And that's what you're teaching people to do. And they're going to recognize that. Thought leaders are going to recognize that sooner than chiropractors, sooner than auto mechanics and other business owners. So I think that you're smart in choosing that as your niche, and I would focus on that. I was on a webinar earlier today, and it was specifically focused on the travel and tourism business. Well, this particular, you know, person, Susan Sweeney, has developed a real target there. People who come on her show need to gear their lessons towards travel and tourism, but as a result, she owns the market in education for that industry, and she's very focused, and I think it's been very successful for her.
Yeah.
Really what we're talking about with the target market, this is Jane. Can you see my lips moving?
Yes.
We can.
Really what we're talking about here are some of the fundamentals of sales. You know, so number one, you have to be extraordinarily clear on not just who your target market is, but who is your ideal client. You know, there's the demographics and the psychographics of marketing. So the psychographics are what really start peeling that onion apart, because somebody who loves going to Europe is somebody who loves going to Europe. Somebody who loves going to Europe with a $100,000 slush fund is a different person than somebody who loves going to Europe and backpacking their way through the hostel. Yeah. So, number one, you've got to be really, really clear on who your market is. The second thing that I see when I'm training salespeople, but this bleeds over into other areas, is you have got to stick your stake in the sand and then be brave enough to hold the line. So most people say, "Oh, but well, what's going to happen if these people need my help?" And I was coaching one of my clients the other day, and I said, "Well, that's their problem, and not to be mean, it's kind of tongue in cheek. Well, that's their problem." But I said, "Really, there are some other professional who will help them. Is that what you want to do?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Then do not do it. Stick your stake in the sand and claim it." Yeah. And then the other thing that I've really noticed just from an exposure, and I have a little page and photo in Klout Matters that I was just so tickled to be included in that book. But once you stick your stake in the sand, you then have to decide who are you as the business owner or the entity, and then dial it up. Because once you dial it up, you almost become just a little bit of an exaggerated version of yourself. It allows you to stand out, and it will clear out people who don't get you or don't get your message. So, for example,
they're not a fit.
They're not a fit, and that's what you're looking for. You're
looking to. Perry Marshall calls it racking the shotgun.
Exactly. Yeah. When you stand on stage, I mean, this sounds really like this would be kind of very unsettling if it happened, but in kind of a world where none of us had any egos, when you were to stand on stage, if a rush of people ran out of the room because they said, "I don't like her message, I don't get it, it doesn't resonate with me," that would be perfect. They can go get coffee, and now everybody that's left in the room is completely dialed into you. They're predisposed to take the next steps. They love what you have. They want more of it, and you can be as big or as quirky or as whatever it is you've got going on as you want to be.
So what about when you stand in the room and up on stage and it's a room for 500 people and there's only 50 there? Was that your promotion was not specific enough?
Are you asking Jane?
Yeah, or anyone.
Well, this is where it gets really tricky and convoluted, because you've got online marketing, you've got offline marketing, you've got promotion, you've got a message. If a message is flat or off point or boring or isn't resonating with your ideal client, then you could be chucking out marketing activities like nobody's business, but nobody's going to show up. Yeah. So it really is just kind of this trifecta. You've got to make sure everything is clicking on all cylinders so that you get this maximum outcome. So it can be very frustrating for the business owner because you don't know which one is off kilter, which is the piece that's kind of slowing you down.
That would be me.
I have clients who say, "Oh, we need more leads, we need more leads." And I say, well, maybe you do, but usually when we analyze it, there's a lot of leads, they're not being converted. So, yeah, if you had a room for 500 and you only have 50 in, as Jane said, it might be a matter of conversion. It might be a matter of the marketing. You have to analyze it. You have to break down each component. Fortunately, with digital marketing, you can look at a lot of that very critically. You can look at each of those steps and see what's going on. You can really evaluate the numbers, but you have to know how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, like anything else, it becomes. I feel like it's a path, it's a journey. Just like becoming a book author, I'm also aspiring as a book author. I've been obsessed with books my whole life, and I think it was. I knew that in starting this show that it would change my opinion of being a book author, that it would change my self-confidence, because I had decided that I wanted to write a book and shared it with my family and was not at all encouraged to go ahead with it. And it really tore my self-confidence and my ability to move forward with the idea of writing a book in the world, because most people don't think that they can write a book, and especially 5 years ago, before self-publishing was as big as it is now, it really was. It was a huge thing. I was talking about writing a book. That's a huge thing 5 years ago. And I knew that, you know, I was starting to get frustrated in 2012, and I knew that I had to put that stake in the ground, and I had to define myself as a book author. And the only way I'd do that is if I started spending time around successful book authors instead of spending time around people who were hoping to do something at some point. I needed to spend more time.
I can definitely relate, and similarly, I don't think it's coincidence that I chose to work with a lot of authors and speakers, you know, as my target clients. But it's been a goal forever to be an author. I remember back in 2008 at an Arizona airport, walking past one of the little bookstores and the book stands, and you know, standing there taking the picture and saying, "One day I will have a book on a you know, in an airport bookstore like that." And
I've literally done that.
Oh, that was motivating. I kept that picture around for years. Those of you who know me personally know I've gone through an awful lot in the last few years. So, you know, every tumultuous thing I think that can happen just about has happened. But, and so, you know, fortunately, opportunity presented itself. I brought in a co-author. For me, for my first book, I do not think I could have gotten it done without a co-author or a book coach. Now, I didn't have a book coach at that time, but I had a co-author, my significant other, Terry Brock. Very smart, very good writer. He's been a journalist for many years. He writes for the business journals, and he has all kinds of great credentials in the writing world. But, you know, he's one of those who can just, like, pick it out, and he just does an article, and he's like, you know, has these great ideas. And I'm more creative, more big picture. I'm a perfectionist. I'm constantly rewriting as I'm writing, so I never get anything written. So
you write all the time and a ton, but nothing ever is finished.
Yes, exactly. Gosh, my whole blog is filled with post and draft. Yeah, so that, you know, it's a process to learn how to get it done, get it out there. And he and I actually right now, he's doing a lot of the articles he's writing for like American business journals. He writes them. I edit. I'm a better editor than I'm a writer, but I do love to write. And you see my office right here. You know, if I did a 360, you'd see a lot of books. And I bring people in here and say, this is the candy store. I said, I feel like a kid in the candy store. I love books.
Yeah, yeah. My bookshelf behind me. Probably about 80%, 70 to 80% of my books I haven't read yet, but books speak to me. And I know that book authors, they put something special into the words. And I know that there are books that I will need, and I can find books and go, okay, I'm not going to read it right now just because there's TV on and I've got work to do and blah, 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 blah. I'll put it on my shelf for 20 years. And whenever something's troubling me or I need some guidance from the universe, I just stand in front of the bookshelf, and the book that ends up in my hand is the exact book that I need, time and time again. And, you know, it could be Tony Robbins or it could be a novel, but I look at my bookshelf like it is the hope chest of my future, right? Like when women used to prepare a hope chest for their wedding, a marriage chest, for their life as a married person, I have my bookshelf to guide me through my future. So it's a big deal, I think. I almost feel like people still underplay how big it is to write a book.
They totally do. And even today, when self-publishing is relatively easy and free, it's you know, it's a commitment of hours and hours even to write a simple ebook and get it out there. Yeah, maybe some people can do it pretty quickly. In fact, one of my friends, John Strzelecki, I think he said in 2 weeks he wrote what was his first New York Times bestseller. Might have been 30 days, but it was quick, and he did nothing else. But he was so inspired. He'd just gotten back from Africa, I believe, and he just had this inspiration to write this message about the Why Cafe. You know, why are you here? Why are you on this planet? And fabulous book. So, you know, that's a system that works for some people. For many of us, we're going to have to write an hour or two each day. So, you know, part of my book writing plan right now is 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. focused on doing it, and so that's really helping me a lot. And knowing that each week I've got to go to my other folks that were in the book writing retreat, and that, you know, we're going to have a webinar, and I've got to do the accountability. Okay, here's where I am, here's where I'm not. So, Debbie, I have a question for you. Have you made a public commitment as far as like timing and what your book's going to be about?
I suppose so. I mean, my book is Celebrity Hangouts on Air. Okay. I found myself last summer. I knew that I wanted to write a book about. I've known for a couple of years that I wanted to write a book about social media. I knew that that was going to be what I'm passionate about, that I want to share, but I didn't really know where my message was really unique. All I knew was that it was things that I've seen that I know about social media that most people don't. And that was what I was trying to figure out. Where can I focus? Where can I really be niche in my topic for my book, so that I'm confident I can write it, that it's me, that it's not other people's knowledge, that I'm not interviewing and researching and just publishing other people's stuff. It is me writing my expertise and sharing it with the world. And I sat down last summer with, I like to use giant Post-it notes to get, when I've got a big idea in my head, I like to plot it out for a couple of years in the future, and like magazines and shows, and I just kind of dream, and I daydream, and I plot everything out on a giant Post-it note. And what I did last summer was I started to really realize that my Hangout on Air planning process, that nothing exists anywhere. There was nothing I could find anywhere to help me create the templates and the processes that I use for planning my Hangouts on Air. All training about Hangouts on Air is how to use the tool, how to use the platform, or even how to be an expert at Google+. And none of it was, I don't find that I need to be an expert at Google+. I'm definitely not an expert at Google+, and yet my Hangouts on Air are a big success. And so there's something very different about what I'm doing and about what exists in the world about teaching people about Hangouts on Air. And so I realized, wait, I do have a process, and I think someone suggested to me late summer, somebody suggested to me about creating a course, like offering a transformational type of webinar of my process. And I already knew that I had to document and write down my process for my book, and I was doing that through working with clients who would hire me to produce their Google+ Hangout on Air shows for them. None of these processes exist in the world. None of the templates that I was creating and things that I was discovering we needed, nothing existed. So I was documenting everything, and I knew it would all go into my book. So I'm like, hey, I've got clients paying me to write my book. Isn't this great? Which is awesome. It's awesome because my book is like, although it's not mostly on paper, it's really very well defined. It is Celebrity Hangouts on Air. I have the complete structure, the 6-step process that I go through, and I wrote it out on the giant Post-it note actually as the outline of my course online, because my plan was to do my course through the fall and then use the feedback from people participating in the course to fill out the stories in the book, because I don't just want it to be me. I want there to be other people in the book as well. And so, but it did, like, even when I stepped back from the Post-it note that first day and I looked at the outline of my website for my course, and I went, holy crap, I just wrote the outline of my book.
Yay!
So, and then I went to, because of my new friendship and relationships, professional relationships with successful book authors. In September, I was at Mike Michalowicz's taping for his the Pumpkin Plan book at Creative Live in San Francisco. And I just started to, I've started last year, I started asking the authors who are on my show if they like what I'm doing, would you introduce me to your publisher? And every single one of them so far, and even when I meet people at, like when I meet book authors at social media conferences and things like that, they say, yeah, as soon as your book is ready to propose to publishers, I'm willing to introduce you. And that's where the fear comes in.
The
right?
fear.
Because I have even purchased, there was Jack Canfield and Steve Harrison did a program called Bestseller Blueprint that I purchased. I haven't gone through the entire thing, but I mean, I've already taken a lot of the actions that they're teaching in it, so it's a difficult course to go through when you know I'm going to be listening to this and stuff I already know. But it's at the same time, like, I don't have my book proposal done. Why don't I have my book proposal done? All I have is the outline, and I know, like, I know what it's about. I know what's in it, and I'm open to an editor or a publisher making changes. I'm not committed to a cover design. I'm not even committed to the title. So I'm really looking forward to hopefully being able to find a traditional publisher, but I know that I need to take the next step.
Well, you're certainly on the right track, and let me just comment. I know we're running out of time, but let me comment on a few things that you've said that sparked my thoughts here. Number one, it's brilliant that you have this so much synergy going on. You know, you're very consistent. You have this program going on. You are already offering a course on this topic. That's one of the things that people don't understand. You're not going to make much money on a book. Generally, a nonfiction book, even if it's self-published, you might make more than through a big publisher. You're going to get more credibility and reputation building with the big publisher. You'll get more money probably with being self-published. And then there's the in-between. There's the entrepreneurial press kind of places like Panoma and some others. So it's very smart. You're going to make your money through speaking. You're going to make your money through consulting, through courses, and those sorts of opportunities. So brilliant.
I think the book sells me more than I sell the book. Like,
yeah.
I work to sell the book, but I'm not going to make money off of the book. I'm going to make money indirectly from people reading the book. If I give the book away, I'll make more money.
And you're going to really establish yourself as the thought leader in this field, as the person, the go-to person. Yeah. Now, as far as being ready to go to a book publisher, my experience was a little different. You know, people say, oh, you know, you write a proposal, you put your heart and soul into it, you shop it to 40 publishers, and they all say no, and then finally one says yes. Well, in my case, the very first one that I sent it to said yes, and I didn't have a chapter, I didn't have, let's see, I did write an outline, you know, table of contents, and a marketing plan. That's really important to a publisher. So, but I saw another book that was similar to, you know, the one that I was interested in. I was reading a book, and as I was reading the book, I said, there's a gap here. You know, this author is just touching on this topic that's this big. Yeah. And so I looked in the front of the book, and I said, well, who published it, and who did they deal with? I sent that person an email directly. I said, would you be interested in a book on this topic? She said yes, and voila. You know,
oh, very interesting.
Years later, you know.
So you were reading a book about something that triggered that the author had a gap.
Yes.
So you reached out to that particular publisher?
Absolutely, and that's a great way to do it.
And that was McGraw-Hill?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that story. That is so valuable.
Well, and I would be happy to make an introduction for you to them, because I'm sure your book will be very enlightening, and they do a lot of the social media space. So, you know, I encourage anyone to do that. They're people too. You know, they're humans.
Yeah. How long was your book proposal? Like, I just feel really insecure about it. I don't know why, but I feel like I feel so insecure about it.
Okay, well, a couple things. Number one, my friend Sam Horn, samhorn.com, does a fabulous little course about how to write a book proposal. She's brilliant, and I've taken that, and it's great. But what was beautiful was when I contacted McGraw-Hill and said, were you interested? And, you know, they checked me out before they said yes, and they saw that I already had a high Klout score, and I had an MBA from a great school, and you know, I appeared to be able to write. I had a few blog posts that I've gotten out there into the world. And so they said yes. They sent me a form, and, you know, the proposal is fill in this form. Write the table of contents. Who is it for? It was much simpler than I thought it would be. And since I've been working with other authors, I've seen their proposals as well. And so, you know, find a publisher that's going to work, you know, might be a good one for you, and they'll send you the form.
Yeah. Interesting. It's the things in life, and I know it's not just me, I know that many of us do this, is that we, I mean, for me, it's got to be an insecurity, but I let my insecurities tell me that you have to, that I don't know, that you have to have something bigger to show them, that you have to, I don't know, it's been holding me back, and I think I really need to take a step.
Well, I understand that, and I think it's tougher for women. I do. And but you know, you're out here doing something that most men aren't doing, and women particularly have trouble doing, is doing video frequently, all the time. Unscripted. You're just out here, you know, you're Oprah for celebrity hangouts.
That is. Did you see me? Yeah, have you seen me say that the first time I saw Hangouts on air, I looked at it and I said, oh my God, this could help me be the Oprah of my peer professional community.
Wow. Well, that's exactly.
I was looking for the tool that would serve me, and that's what I share when I share celebrity hangouts on air. Why would you want to do a hangout on air? Because it will make you the Oprah of your peer professional community.
Exactly. That's what it does. Because, see, in digital marketing, well, in real life as well, and I know Jane and I have talked about this a lot, you have to cross what I call the know, like, and trust bridge. People have to know you, so that's marketing. They kind of have to be aware of you. They have to like you. How are they going to get to like you? Well, the best way is if you're in person, eye-to-eye contact. You know, you want to see somebody's eyes. But if you're not in person, the next best thing is you see them on video, or they see you on video, and they feel a real connection to you. And then that leads to the last component before they will, you know, hand over their their hard-earned money, is trust.
Yeah. I've started to do a few webinars recently, and most of the sales webinars that I see are all slides. You never see the person who's speaking. Yesterday I recorded my first one. I had to do it twice. The first one recorded the wrong screen on my computer, so I didn't get any of my slides up. It was brilliant. It was an hour and 1 minute with no clock. I was like, oh my God, I'm so good. And I went to watch it, and I was so disappointed because I had recorded the wrong screen on my computer.
Oh.
And I took an hour break. I drank a glass of wine. I had some dinner, and at exactly an hour later, I recorded for another hour. And the second time was a better recording, but I want to address that just really briefly, because there are some people I've been thinking, someone who I've worked with in the past who is a sales coach online, Lindsay Wilson in Los Angeles. She's an online sales coach, a very much heart-centered type of entrepreneur. And she talks about big ticket sales through social media. And that you have to connect. You have to establish a connection with the person before they're going to give you money, especially when it's a large amount, especially if you're dealing with entrepreneurs and business owners. And she always does presentations. All of her webinars, our presentations, are just her face talking at the screen. And that's not something I've ever really been comfortable with, which is why I set up my Hangouts on Air to always be a panel discussion. It's the format that I'm more comfortable with, where I don't have to, I'm not the star of the show. I don't want to be the star of the show. I just want to get the credit for it.
You can't be over without being the star of the show.
But then, so I see so many of the webinars that I actually purchase things from that I would like to create, you know, a strong converting and sales webinar, and they're all. I think I almost wonder if maybe you have to be that much more like Jane, you were saying, you have to dial your personality up a level so that you can express it.
Well, here's what I know for sure. People fall in love with you, and then they buy what you're selling. And that's really what it is. It's, you know, Gina in a box, or Jane in a box, you know, Deborah in a box. How do you get more of this person home with you, because you know you're not really going home with them. So when they fall in love with you, and then they fall in love with your message, and then they will buy whatever it is that you're selling. So the dial-up factor is, it's what kind of will put you a little bit over the edge, because you are wanting to, and you have to stand out from the crowd and the noise that's going on. So if you're quirky, be quirky. If you're really, you know, if you're really kind of deep, and then you're deep. You know, you want to make a tiny bit of an exaggeration of what it is. Not inauthentically, I don't mean that by any stretch of the imagination, but you want people to really understand who you are, because when they resonate with you, that's when they will say, okay, now how do I get more? This person gets me, they understand me, it's like they're inside my head, it's like they totally they know what I'm going through. So that's why that piece is so important, to really just come out and be fully who you are.
Yeah. Do you think that there's a part about publishing content that is like off? Like, I feel like maybe I should not talk about Hangouts on Air so much as I do.
Publishing content that's off, and you feel like you should
off
what?
Subject? I feel like maybe I should. I don't know. I think ultimately, you know, I'm going to go to your website for sure after this Hangout, Jane. I think what I really need to think about is my voice in my communications, because when I speak myself, I know what I'm trying to get across, and I know that the people who like my Hangout, and the people who like me, and that's cool. I can be myself. But when I'm writing ads, or when I'm writing copy or blog posts, that's when I have a little bit more. I'm more challenged. Like I'm challenged to present the value in Hangouts on Air just being my face.
Yeah.
And I'm challenged to show my face on a Hangout on Air where I'm showing slides.
Right.
So how do I resolve that?
It really is the articulation of the message. So one of the things that my sales students always hear me say, as I say, Gina will appreciate this, I go, I got really bad news, everybody, hope you're sitting down. Nobody cares what you do. They do not care what you do, and they really don't want to hear how you do it. So let's take that to the next step. Nobody cares how fabulous you are. What they care about is how fabulous are you going to make them. Mm-hmm. And so that's what it really is. So there's, first they fall in love with you and kind of who you are and your energy and your presentation. They get you. It's that kindred spirit. The next thing is they fall in love with your message. Then they will buy what you sell. But here's the big caveat. If and only if they understand the value of what it is that you're actually presenting to them. And that all comes down to the ability to articulate why they want to spend their time, why they want to spend their finances, why they want to spend any resource on you. They need to understand what the value is, and that has to be conveyed in words. Whether you write it or speak it, it has to be conveyed in words. So getting really clear on who your people are on the outside is one thing. The next thing is you have to get really clear on who you are on the inside and be able to answer the question in a way that really has a resonating impact on your client. Why would I want to work with you? Why am I going to partner up with you and give you my time, energy, money? What is the answer? And so the number one fatal flaw that most people make is they start talking about themselves. I've got X amount of experience. I've got 20 years doing this. I was a top producer. I was a this. I was a that. You know, it's like, oh, yawn, put me to sleep. I didn't ask for your resume. I want to know, why do I want to hand over my resources to you?
Yes, yes. And that's exactly what I talk about when I talk about sales of sponsorship sales for Hangouts. Is the exact same thing, is that you can't focus, although you have to contract advertising space, it's not what you're selling, and it is absolutely not what they're buying. They are buying results, and if you don't produce results, they won't buy your advertising again. They'll take that money and go on vacation with it.
So here's where it gets really tricky. I'll say one more thing, then I'll stop. Here's where it gets really tricky. Most of us all want the same thing. We want more time, more money, more health, more freedom, more love. That's it. Those 5 things. Eschewing food and water, that's what all humans really want. We want those 5 things. But you can't just now start selling those 5 things, because your yoga teacher can promise you more food, more love, more health. Ben & Jerry's can promise you the same thing. The financial planner, right? So no matter what your profession is, somewhere in there you offer one or a combination of those 5 things. So now you've got to be able to go back and specifically articulate with a very precise language how you're going to allow them to have one of those 5 things in a bigger, better way than they currently have it, and why you are the only person that's going to be able to deliver that in the exact way that they want to receive it.
Do you have that written down somewhere?
I know I'm going to be listening to this again and taking some more notes. Yeah, I mean, Jane and I have taught classes together, and I've attended her sessions before, and every time I listen to her, she says something else that's so brilliant. And I think I know an aspiring guest who might be on your show at another.
I hope so. I hope you'll all come back. Sandy, I think you wanted to jump in and say something.
Well, I think that everybody is sort of summing up what we said. You know, you talk about being a little trepidatious to get out there, and when you started, you talked about being a little uncertain about who your exact audience is. You know, if we go back to our media backgrounds, the most outrageous commercials are the ones in the audiences that are really defined, like sports or MTV, because they know exactly who they're talking to.
Because they can be outrageous.
Yeah, they
can offend the people who aren't their target group.
Right, and if you start thinking, oh my God, I'm going to insult, you know, it's the difference of being on broadcast television where you have to play to a broader audience and being afraid to pump it up too much, as opposed to being really knowing exactly who's sitting across from you and you're talking to, and whether it's your personality or you know exactly to provide value, you have to know what they want, what do they value. So if you're not 100% sure of who that exact person is, you don't pump it up. You play in the middle. And, you know, if you
wait to see.
If you go back to that, if you really know what they're going to want financially and emotionally, you can start pumping those, you can pump yourself back up and be comfortable that you can come out guns blazing.
Usually
I literally, we're just right about an hour, and I am literally vibrating at a completely different level now. I know Gina and I were talking before we went live today, and my energy has shifted so dramatically. This conversation is really powerful. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I do want to ask Gina and Jane and Sandy if you have any final comments or any final advice or words for the aspiring and working book authors, and even the best-selling book authors. I think when they come on the show, we all have things to learn, no matter what level that you're at.
Jane, you want to go first?
Sure. I think the biggest thing is, and it's hard for all of us, but you've got to move your ego out of the way. So when I hear somebody say, well, but I've got a message, I've got something that has to be said, I look at them and I mentally give them a hug. Sometimes I physically give them a hug and I say, yes, dear one, but is anybody going to want to listen to it? You know, so you have to move your ego out of the way and find where is that intersection between what you have to say and what people actually really want and need to hear. That would be the first thing. And then the second thing would just be very clear on what you really want this book to do for you. Is it shoot straight up the New York Times bestseller list? Because that's a whole different ball game than use it as kind of a giant oversized business card. You know, so there are different ways to get exposure, to make money from it, to really augment or enhance your career. You want to be very, very clear as the author, what am I trying to do here? And, you know, and I'm all for dreams. And then I also think you need to kind of temper that a little bit with some reality, just so that your spirit isn't crushed when you go, man, I was sure Danielle Steele was going to come pounding on my door to celebrate with me because I was right there tracking her sales. You know, so be realistic. Dream big, be realistic.
And people, Jane, tell them where they can find you.
Yes.
Oh, you can find me at janegary.com, which is JaneGaree, and I just put up a new blog post today. There's a challenge going around. I told people they could give me any word they wanted, and I was going to work it into my blog while still staying on the topics of selling, sales, and business ownership. So today's word was arenaceous, which is of or belonging to the hedgehog family. So if you'd like to see how I actually worked that into a sales training, you can see that on my website, janegary.com.
Oh,
awesome.
I ran across a hedgehog in Holland a few weeks ago. I'm out walking on a trail, and there's this hedgehog right in the middle of the trail. Like, what is that?
They're popping up everywhere.
That's awesome.
Sandy?
Well, I think I agree with everything Jane said. And what I would add goes a little bit back to what Debbie was talking about. The book that I'm working on is a business book about how you can become more profitable. As I did the outline, it was too much a business book. So I started I'm looking at Gina's jewel box of books there, and I made sure that I was weaving in a lot of novels in there also, so that I remembered that even though I'm writing a business book, I'm writing it to a person with a lot of different emotions. And I just remind myself that it's a person on the other end of that book. And it takes a lot of that ego pressure off to know that you're communicating with someone.
I guess we learn very much through stories.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something for me I try to keep in mind. I'm writing a business book. I don't want it to be flat and instructional. I want it to be full of stories. I want people to see themselves in the situation so that they're encouraged to take the actions.
I agree.
Yes. And Sandy, where can we find you?
You can find me at Sandy Coryell, Coryell, and Sandy's with an I because I am in LA, so it has to be with an I. And I'm at thecoryellgroup.com.
Sandy, how do you spell Coryell?
It's Coryell. And I'd be remiss, I wouldn't be a student of Gina if I didn't say you could also find me at Sandy Coryell on Twitter.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, so I'd like to say thank you, Debbie, for putting this together, and thank you for being such an inspiration, such a leader in this field. I've done some Google Hangouts myself, and I want to do more, and seeing you out there, you know, there's so many people that you inspire and that we're inspiring, and we have no clue. And every now and then they'll raise their hand and say, oh, and like Sandy said earlier, and you'll see, oh, and you had no idea you were having such an impact. And, you know, even years later, things like that happen. So, yes, keep up the good fight. Thank you for putting this together. Thank you for being part of our book. Debbie is quoted in our book. She had some great tips to share. So I want you to do that. And if you'd like to see the book, you can get 2 free chapters at kloutmatters.com. So go on over there and you can get 2 free chapters. You can also join a Facebook group that we have where we discuss Klout, social influence, that sort of thing. And if you'd like a free strategy session with me, just go to ginacarr.com. There's a tab for free strategy session, 30 minutes. We'll talk about some things. I guarantee you'll have some ideas that will help you get more business. And nobody stumped me yet. And I love helping business owners get more ideas. And then just finally, if you are interested in doing this sort of book writing retreat that I've talked about, there's one coming up in New York in July, and I think one in Orlando in November. Just send me a note, gina@ginacarr.com, and ask me about that, and I'll get you some more details about that.
Awesome.
What about your course?
Well, I, you know, my course is, it's funny, Jean, when you say you have to put your ego aside. I hear you, and I recognize that my ego is insecurities. And I'm one of the people that I have to put my ego aside and allow myself to step forward and allow myself to push my message forward, because otherwise I'll just fade into nothingness. So thank you.
That might be a component that you dial up a little bit. You know, I mean, we're all insecure. So imagine being able to connect with somebody who has the courage, who has the chops to say, hey, this is absolutely terrifying for me.
And that's what I do. I think that is how I bring people into Hangouts, because I have every insecurity that anybody's ever had. And I learn, you know, I do learn that it's difficult to get over your insecurities. It's difficult to go through challenges, but then when you're done, you're not insecure anymore. Once you're confident, once you have experience, once you know something, then it doesn't have that same level. So if you're interested in experiencing Hangouts on Air and what they can do for your business, now I've said very clearly that this particular Hangout, Sparkle SOS Book Authors and Publishers, which I launched in the fall of 2012, I was working a full-time job where they didn't even really understand what I could do for them, and it was, I was launching the show as a way to, I needed something. I needed a way to test Hangouts on Air. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to launch my own show, and the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to do it around something that I'm really passionate about, that I really need a lot of help with, which is getting over my insecurities about writing a book. And if it works, great, because I'm passionate about it, I'll want to continue doing it. If it doesn't, then fine. I know because I'm passionate about it, I put every ounce I could into it, and it still didn't work, so it was time to pull the plug. So I've been through the process, and what happened was, like I said, I was just a full-time social media community manager when I started my Hangout on Air. I don't think anyone had ever written about me in a book. I wasn't considered a thought leader. There were people who, especially in the Toronto area, who recognized my Twitter at @Sparkle_agency. Sparkle Agency and Sparkle as a brand is something that people are starting to recognize. But I wasn't really being recognized. I wasn't really putting myself forward until I had the Hangout on Air. And not only am I included in Gina's book, and now have the ability to have Gina on my show, but also someone like Mike Michalowicz, who's a book author and business coach in the United States that I've been working with for a number of years, who I found initially on CNBC on The Big Idea with Donnie Deutsch, and I found him on Facebook and friended him 5 years ago. And well, he's literally called me the hero of his book. Profit First, which comes out July 4th this year, just a couple of weeks. So I'm really excited about the changes that are happening in my life because of the relationships that I'm establishing through my show. And that's the most important thing. If you're struggling to break through in your life, as I was, and struggling to get noticed and struggling to find the platform where you can talk about the things that you're passionate about, talk about the things that really fulfill you, I really recommend Hangouts on Air. So my stuff and my course is available at celebrityhangoutsonair.com, and I have a brand new mastermind program that is opening for the summer. It's a summer blockbuster program where we're going to get your Celebrity Hangouts on Air launched and up, and by the fall you're going to be a whole new person. So it's available at celebrityhangoutsonair.com /mastermind opt-in. And you can get all the information to watch a full webinar that I've got there that it really takes people through in an hour, everything that I can about producing and planning a Hangout on Air. So that was my 5-minute, 30-second commercial. You can tell I've never done it before, right? The webinar that I recorded yesterday was my first ever webinar. The funnel that I launched this morning is my first ever funnel. All I've ever done in my career has been an expert. As a media buyer, I'm one piece of the pie that produces sales for our clients. And so even as a Hangout on Air producer, I've been siloed in my focus, and I didn't know what a funnel was. I didn't know I needed a funnel. I didn't know how a funnel could change my life. I still haven't experienced how a funnel can change my life, but I'm waiting for it because I've got that whole mastermind opt-in, and I'm really excited to see how it changes things. So thank you everybody so much for your time and for joining us, and I welcome all of you, anyone who's an aspiring book author or a working book author, or especially, you know, we love to have best-selling book authors, but anywhere that you are in that process, I welcome you to join us on a future episode. Reach out to me. You can just Google #Sparkle and you will find me. Okay. So thanks everyone for watching.
All right, thanks Deb, thanks Sandy, thanks Jane. Look forward to meeting you in a couple weeks, Sandy. Yay!
I'll see you there. See you in San Diego.
Bye.